all. Welcome back to Ascending with Ashley. I'm Ashley. This is Diagnosing and Dismantling Society. Today, we're going to try and do this. We're going to go over narcissistic personality disorder. Okay. The definition is a disorder in which a person has an inflated sense of self-importance. Everyone take a deep breath because we're going to start talking about white supremacy. Okay? Narcissistic personality disorder is found more commonly in men. Patriarch? Interesting. The cause is unknown, but likely involves a combination of genetic and environmental factors. Environmental factors being this society. Patriarch. The green light for narcissism. I think when we think about narcissism, the thing I really want to hit home with this one, and this is probably going to be a little longer because it's going to be, we have to talk about the different layers of this. Okay, so patriarch for one. Patriarchy is a male-dominated, male men in charge society or system. Obviously. So from patriarchy, I'm going to need to draw. From the patriarchy, we have things like military-industrial complex, okay? High-ranking officials are generally men, okay? Generally. There is an exception to that. For now, okay? And I am in the U.S., and I am going to be talking about the U.S. for this. Mr. Hootie agrees. He is right here, smack dab, plopped in the middle of my desk. Okay. Big booty. Alright. So, self-importance. Men. Ooh. We have military. Then we have religion. Okay. Within religion, we have Catholicism. Why is that important? Because they abstain from sex. Why does that pertain to what we're talking about? Abuse of children. Okay? And women. Okay? Abuse. Narcissism is... Okay. So if we take the person out of this, alright, I didn't even write down patriarch. Patriarchy. A disorder in which a person has an inflated sense of self-importance. So we're going to take out the word person and we're going to put in the word society. Nation would also work because we are talking about the U.S. Now what we're going to do is we're going to talk quickly. We're going to go on a side quest this way. What movies, give me 3 movies. Pick number 3, my lord. I never do this with my left hand. That's awkward. Pick 3 movies that you can name where a white man saved the world. Ready, go. Take your time. Okay. Keep going. You get bonus points for an international thriller in which a man saved the world. Ooh, that's a good one. I can't stop. I'm thinking of so many. Why is this important? Because Hollywood works with the government to keep people entertained and indoctrinated. And a lot of this shit happens subconsciously. If you haven't watched any of the hidden messages in media courses that I did, go watch that one. Go watch that. It's a playlist. My bachelor's was in communication, so I really like using media as case studies when we talk about dismantling and decolonizing such. My picks that I wrote down, Air Force One. It's an old movie with Harrison Ford, Tom Hanks, Brad Pitt. Who else? Who are these other white men that saved the world? I don't really watch shit like this anymore. There's a whole new generation, but when I was growing up, these were the men that I saw. I have Air Force One, I have Angels and Demons, or like that whole Tom Hanks series with the as Robert Langdon. There's the Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, and then the one about, I have that movie, what's it called? Inferno. There it is. Inferno. Okay. Jurassic Park, White Men. Okay. World War Z with Brad Pitt. Okay. And then I also have the movie Taken with Liam Neeson, when he travels to take on like human trafficking rings. Okay. So the things that we continue to see over and over and over again, are the things that we start to internalize at a subconscious level as truth. Okay? So when you're continuing to see, keep breathing everybody, when you keep seeing white men in church or saving the day, right? I'm thinking of the movie Aliens versus Monsters, when Stephen Colbert plays the president. He does the voice of the president. But there's this one line in particular that I'm thinking of right now, and it's also taking me to American Idiot, a line in that song, that Stephen Colbert says as the president in that movie when he gets off the plane. He says something along the lines of, America's the only country that aliens ever live or land in, or something like that. The only country that sees UFO, something like that. Something about America or the United States and aliens. Okay, so I think that's an important line. And then I hear that that line in American Idiot by Green Day is all across the alien nation. Why am I bringing up aliens? I don't know. I think what's important though is that, I know why. Because when Americans see things like drones, like those drones that were happening in Jersey, I don't know when that was, we're all in this time zone, warp sitch. Anyway, nobody could believe that those were going to start firing on people. So I think that's the thing, is like everyone else in this world knows that when they start seeing things flying over, it is predominantly the United States or Israel ready to bomb them. That's a reality, okay? For Americans, for United States people, they think it's a alien, right? There's no concept of this could be war, okay? That's speaking to the self-importance, okay? This is something that we desperately need to decolonize from. Ethnocentrism is a word I learned in my undergrad at a Catholic college. And it is essentially white supremacy rebranded for academic, what's the word for swallowing? I'm thinking of like swallowing a pill, but not like in Matrix style, like pick the red or blue. No, you want to, no. Ethnocentrism. Tendency to view one's own culture or ethnic group as superior and to judge others' cultures based on one's own standards, often leading to a biased or distorted perception of other groups. So, do you see a commonality within the definition of ethnocentrism, essentially white supremacy, because white supremacy kills people in order to remain relevant? That's why we're focusing on that. That's why we're talking about the white men, because there's a certain level of self-importance that has been placed there. I'm pretty sure we're all aware of that, okay? Popularized by sociologist William Grant Sumner in his 1960 book Folkways, is the belief that one's culture, ethnicity, or nationality is superior to others. So if you believe that you are superior to others in a society, okay, ooh, this feels like this could be a stick figure picture. Let us go. If this is you, I'm not saying you have to be white, but we are talking about narcissism, so that's all races. I don't know why I'm adding hair. Okay. It's a little curly, but whatever. Curly defies most cultures. Okay, I'll draw straight hair too. Fuck, I'm not even gonna draw hair, god damn it. I'm just gonna draw a person, butt ass naked with a smiley face, okay? If you believe this is you, and you have all these people around you, and I'm done drawing stick figures, and you think that you are more important, you have an inflated ego, obviously, because you're like a giant, okay? I'm kidding. If you think that you're more important than others, alright, and you treat people as such, first of all, that's gross. Second of all, that doesn't necessarily mean you're narcissistic. It, according to the DSM, it does mean that you're kind of a dick, okay? The goal here is to use the definitions and characteristics from the DSM to place them back on society, okay? I think I just went the opposite way. I'm all over the place because I'm excited about these connections. Common symptoms: grandiosity. Okay, think about Donald Trump for a sec. Just 1 sec while I read these things. Grandiosity, callous and unemotional traits, disregard for others' feelings, / lives. Okay? Oh, Google just kicked me out. Stop fucking censoring me. Leave me alone. Ooh, it's 11:11. Make a wish. I wish for world peace. I have this candle here, and I've been kind of like making wishes on it today. Like, world peace. 11:11 candle. Okay. Disregard for others' feelings, excessive needs for. Oh, it was because they kicked me out again. I'm not kidding. They keep kicking me out of Google. It was because I said the forbidden T word. Hang on. Let's see if we can get through this together. I'm going back into Google. Here's my search. Narcissistic. I'm trying to look at symptoms, and then I get kicked out. I'll just look this. Alright, so grandiosity, callous, and emotional traits, disregard for others' feelings, excessive need for admiration, or social isolation. I isolate from society because I hate it, but that doesn't mean I'm a narcissist. Also want to say that narcissism is very real on an individual level. That doesn't necessarily mean that I agree with the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. However, I think because it says here in the beginning, right, the cause is unknown but likely involves a combination of genetic and environmental factors. That's what I believe. I believe that narcissistic traits are carried throughout society. That's why we're talking about this at a systemic level, and also within family. When my baby daddy has narcissistic tendencies, he's a pathological liar and like crazy. And my mother is a covert narcissist, but I don't think she knows that. Like, she hasn't done any self-reflection to be able to identify that. My sister's a narcissist. And one thing I know about her, one time there was this time that something really bad happened to her, and like really bad. And I'm not going to share all that. But it was years later, like maybe 2 or 3 years later, and the situation came up in a weird way with an acquaintance of hers, and she said to me about this situation that came up, I didn't play the blank card on her. So when you that was like red flag. I need to get a red flag. I could make one. Anyway, when you do shit like that, like when you move like that, where you're like emotionally manipulating people to either look at you a certain way or feel a certain way or offer sympathy to you in a certain way or just like trying to control them in a certain way, yeah, those are all narcissistic tendencies. Don't do that. That's gross, weird. Work on your own shit. Heal yourself. Because that's the thing. This thing that happened to her was really bad, yes. But again, like I say all the time, bad shit happens to everyone. Okay, you're not alone in whatever you're facing. Everyone has lost family members. Everyone has lost animal pets, right? I mean, not if you haven't had an animal, but people have experienced grief in varying degrees. People have experienced a whole bunch of shit. And again, remember, when I'm sharing about my family, I'm sharing about people who are not affected by systemic shit at all. Okay? At all. And I need you to understand that, especially when we are talking about white supremacy and I'm using these examples. For people to have not experienced any sort of systemic oppression at all, to continue to also, like, to really play these games with other people, those are shitty people. Okay? Those are narcissistic people and tendencies, and you can heal from that shit. I mean, I used to be a dick. When I first went into the mental institution in jail, I was like, I don't belong here. You know, I'm like this little white girl who is like academic. And my ass got handed to me by the general population. And I'm grateful for it. Because I left there not being such a fucking dick. But I needed a lesson in the hard knocks, for sure. And that's the thing. I think that people are inherently good. I think that we learn from what we have around us. Okay. Oh gosh. Okay. Excessive need for admiration, disregard for others' feelings, inability to handle any criticism, and a sense of entitlement. So take that definition. Okay, I'm going to have to write down these definitions to draw these parallels. I am going to turn this into a zine. I started it yesterday. It's cute. I didn't get very far. I just have to copy and paste a bunch of shit. Why did they fuck us up with plagiarism so much if everything just became like everybody's? Why did they hone that in so bad? What am I looking at? Oh, definition of white supremacy. White supremacy. So, Zionism would also be a thing that works here. I think there's a pretty obvious link between Nazis, white supremacists. Are those the same? I don't really know. I don't exist on the evil side of the spectrum. The belief that white people constitute a superior race and should therefore dominate society, typically to the exclusion or detriment of other racial and ethnic groups. Okay, hold that close to your mind for 1 sec. Excessive need for admiration, disregard of others' feelings, and inability to handle any criticism and sense of entitlement. Please tell me I made this connection correctly. Are you guys here with me? We're here, right? All that to say is, the DSM and the psychology, whatever, is going to continue to individualize, okay? So, say a person of color gets diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. From my expertise in this, and that's why I was so lenient with baby daddy too, because of his systemic trauma. For a long time I forgave a lot of the things because I understood and I have compassion. Okay, I'm on the other side of the narcissistic spectrum, which brings me to my next point: the empath and narcissistic magnetic pull to each other. It's a fascinating psychological experiment, and I find myself in these situations often. I've gotten out of it mostly because I isolate myself, but when you have a certain amount of vibration and people feed off of energy, which is narcissistic on an individual level, then yeah, there's a magnetic pull. Whatever. Anyway, if society had real solutions for people who experience systemic oppression, real ways to, what's the word? Heal, but that's not the word. I'm thinking it's an R. What is this word? They say it all the time in the corrections field. What is this word? This word is important. Give me a sec. My words have not been flowing today. I'm thinking re-entry, but that's not it. What is the word that they tell when they lock you up? They say they're gonna correction, rejuvenate. No, that's not it. What's the word? What is this? What is this word here? I'm gonna look up correctional institution. Maybe they have it in their fucking correctional institution near me. No thanks, I'm good. I'm just trying to find a word. Reformatories, that's the word. Alright, a correctional institution is a broad term encompassing facilities like prisons, jails, and reformatories, halfway houses, and all. You should have, confinement. Rehabilitation is the word. Rehabilitate? That's the word, not reformatory. Rehabilitation. Is that the word? I don't know. Either way, they're both R's. So if the system produced more rehab or reforming instead of criminalizing and incarcerating, which again brings us back to when we were decolonizing away from the amendments, which is obsolete now. Those don't even exist on the White House page anymore. Right on. So we're all surviving narcissism at a very, dictatorship is the epitome of narcissism. Can we make that parallel, please? But within systems, slavery is, so the 13th Amendment makes slavery legal if there was a crime committed. That's why you have municipal codes for fucking everything, alright? Because that makes more criminals, that makes more slave labor, that makes more profit, that makes more profit. Product and then profit, my bad. So when we exist in these narcissistic, that's just a little bit of society. We're not even talking about like the full-on carceral system, the hierarchies, all of that. Everything is narcissistic, okay? So again, we're taking this definition from the DSM that individualizes, pathologizes, and criminalizes individuals. And we're putting it back on society to be like, whoa bitch, you're the narcissist. We exist in a narcissist. So that means Stockholm Syndrome. Hang on. I hope I'm doing this justice. So there's a lot here for this one. So I hope this... Stockholm Syndrome is a proposed condition or theory that tries to explain why hostages sometimes develop a psychological bond with their captors. Why are liberals the way they are? Why are Republicans the way they are? Either way, the United States population suffers immensely from Stockholm Syndrome, but it's more in this nostalgic way. This way in which people were promised a certain way of life, boomers especially, and they've lived that out, right? They've taken more than their fair share as a generation. And continue to. Because again, all of these systems that we're talking about exists within, like, the boomers are the ones that have created this. And now it's just all shot to fucking hell because we are in a dictatorship, okay? Of a narcissist. A very, very intense narcissist. So Netanyahu, Putin, Trump, those are narcissists who have way too much control of the world. And we are all just like, yay, let me watch Netflix. No, I'm kidding. To a certain degree. I mean, some people are like, hey, let me go to this football game. Hey, let me go see Taylor Swift, right? That's called breads and circuses. So let's look up a little bit more about narcissism at an individual level to understand it at a larger systemic level. I hope that this helps you in your individual relationships, because narcissists are very real. I've survived. I was raised by narcissists. Narcissist Narcissistic tendencies. Let's look at that. I think that the entire boomer generation is a narcissistic generation. And I've talked about that before. What are narcissistic tendencies? People who have an unreasonably high sense of their own self-importance. But it's not just that. They need and seek too much attention and want people to admire them. People with this disorder may lack the ability to understand or care about the feelings of others. That's why they are attracted to empaths. Sometimes it can be like an intellectual thing where they're just like are curious. Sometimes, most of the time though, it is an energy supply. Energy supply is like narcissists are energy vampires. Need for admiration, lack of empathy, entitlement. Narcissists believe that they deserve special privileges and have a sense of entitlement. Exploitative behavior. They often manipulate, deceive, or take advantage of others to achieve their own goals, using them for personal gain. Okay? Lack of empathy. They struggle to understand or care about the feelings of others, often dismissing or invalidating their perspectives. They crave attention and validation from others, seeking constant praise and approval to maintain their inflated sense of self-worth. That is baby daddy all day long. And I got to a point where I was like, we were married for 4 years. And I realized about, I don't know when I realized it. But he is a very large public speaker in the city of Los Angeles in varying fronts, protests, But what I started to realize was that his podium speech was like the only thing he knew. That's the only thing he ever said. Even at home, like we were married, and he would like go on these long ass spiels, and I'd have to stop him and be like, dude, you're reciting your speech from like City Hall. Like I was there with you. Like why are you telling me this like the way you're telling me? And it's like they don't have, I don't know, it sucks. It's very sad, honestly. But I'm able to have empathy and sympathy. It's a very sad thing. And a lot of it does stem from trauma. But again, when we think about trauma, we think about Stockholm Syndrome. I mean, we are all held hostage in this society, in this system. We have to participate to varying degrees for our own survival, right? There's no way around it unless we build those systems around it, which is why we're dismantling this shit in the first place. Ultimately, though, the American society is the most narcissistic. What is the number one narcissistic trait? A gross sense of entitlement. Selfishness. Sense of self-importance, preoccupation with power, beauty, or success. Entitled can only be around people who are important or special. Interpersonally